on this very beautiful, nondescript street is a detective agency that isn't a detective agency, a restaurant that's not a restaurant, a speakeasy that may or may not be there with a menu item that you may or may not know about.
I've arrived in the residential neighborhood of Earl's Court in hot pursuit of a Prohibition-era speakeasy hidden behind the false front of a detective agency.
The place is called Evans & Peele Detective Agency, and actually you have to have a case that they have to solve in order to get in. Stay close, stay cool.
Detective Evans, pleasure to meet you. Now, Mr. Richman, why is it that we're here today?
I've been charged with a particular task. I have to find hidden, delicious food in hidden restaurants the world over.
And I think we can certainly help you out. Come with me.
What? Believe it or not, it even gets cooler on the other side of the bookcase.
Behind this hidden door, the Evans & Peele Speakeasy, a Prohibition-era bar and restaurant serving up traditional cocktails and inventive dishes like pulled rib waffles and smoked cheesecake that can only be found through a person in the know.
It's crazy that it's a speakeasy that still gets its reputation grown the way a speakeasy would, by word of mouth.
We've not actually ever spent one penny in advertising. You just opened it up and said, look, come down, see what we're doing. And it just snowballed from there.
And with everyone getting in on the ruse, it's easy to see why. Thank you.
Hey, guys. What's up? Happy Tuesday. I'm a little jealous of your humongous Starbucks there, but you know,
Gonna need it. I'm
jealous of your life. You get to eat the best food.
I was up late watching the Democratic convention, so I need to rally.
Yeah.
I need to rise up. Right? That was Cory Booker, so that's the best I got is my red eye. Sorry.
So you're back in New York. You're from New York.
Yep.
You grew up in Brooklyn, correct?
Correct. Still live in Brooklyn.
So when you come back to New York, what's the first place you go to eat at?
My couch. I swear, I'm such a Seamless addict. Seamless is like the best and worst thing to ever occur. It's just the ability to like pick and choose and press buttons. What's up, Stella? But just to be able to like press buttons and be like, yeah, maybe a little of this and a little of that. So catch up on DVR, Seamless, Hermit.
What's your Seamless go-to? Are you like a Thai food guy, sushi? Well, I know you're a sushi guy, but...
Yeah, it depends on kind of what I've missed. There's Colombian spot in my neighborhood that throws down pretty hard. There's a couple really good Asian spots in my neighborhood, you know, whether it's Malaysian food or Thai food. I crushed an undue amount of sushi with a friend last night watching the Democratic National Convention. I don't know if it was like emotion eating or something like that, but yeah, that's usually it. I mean, it depends on like where I've been traveling. It's like the one thing you can't get. So we filmed for this series for about 2 months in Asia. So I got back, I just wanted pizza. I think I ordered, thank you, Seamless, from 2 different pizza places. And I was like, I have a slice of this one, a slice, you know, one more slice of each, and then I'll wrap them up. But it was so awesome. I was like catching up on Game of Thrones with like pizza. I was like, kill me now. Today, it's not going to get any better.
Oh, my God, this sounds like heaven.
Right?
And, you know, with your new show, well, it's not really a new show. So it used to be Man Finds Food.
Correct.
And you switched the title.
Yes. The network wanted to switch the title. It was over my pay grade. But the idea was just to sort of make it really clear what it is, who's hosting it. I think Man Finds Food. I think people understood that I was probably involved in some capacity, but didn't, you know, maybe really grasp what that it was about. These off-menu places, off-menu dishes, and off-the-grid restaurants. Maybe they thought it was like me, like rooting around on my couch cushions for like lost tater tots or something. So it's awesome, and the fact that we found places and dishes that are so strange in places that are so unusual, I think it's captivating. It really, I mean, it's stuff that for those of us that have made it, we genuinely have loved watching it.
Yeah. So this season you kind of leave the U.S. and you go off and you just explore. Tell us about where you've been and what kind of food you've eaten and any highlights. I mean, I'm just so excited to watch. I watched the London version, and you know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, London, the food's okay." That food looked delicious.
It is. That place that you saw, Evans & Peele, the truffle bacon mac and cheese appears on no menu, and it's just a work of genius. But we went to 13 different countries. We filmed 2 episodes in South Africa, in Johannesburg and in Cape Town, and it was important to us, that sometimes things are hidden not because they are behind a bookcase. Sometimes they are in the last place any tourist goes. And there are so many travel shows out there, and people that I consider friends and colleagues like Tony and Andrew, they're different than me. I mean, Tony's an experienced chef, and he has that kind of really sort of embittered, wizened, sardonic thing. Andrew is a multiple James Beard Award winner with a much greater degree of culinary acumen than I. And I just want to go have like the most ripshit, kick-ass time there is. And I feel a lot of people when we travel, especially because travel is so expensive, that you have to. And so we filmed in South Africa, but we went to Soweto, and we went to the Guguletu Township and the Maboneng Precinct as much as we did Randburg and Lovo neighborhoods by the rugby stadium. We went to Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Hong Kong. We went to Thailand, to Argentina, to Mexico, to Russia, to Poland, to Italy, to England. And that's the thing, too. I was just mentioning this. I'm a kid who lived through a good chunk of the Cold War, at least, and saw communism fall. To be an American and to film in Moscow and to film in Saigon and to film in places like parts of Johannesburg that are normally things that we associate as being rife with I mean, I'm a Jew that's half Polish, like to film in Warsaw and to see, this building is one of the 20% that still stood after the war. And then there's a type of restaurant we film at. And that's something that I think is so cool. Like, I will fully cop to this on AOL and the interwebs. I thought Soweto was an African word. There's an old rap group named Stetsasonic, and they had this dope joint back in the day. AFRICA, Angola, Soweto, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana. So let me speak about the motherland. Oh, well, that's Prince Paul, who ended up producing De La Soul. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, Soweto is actually a portmanteau of Southwestern Township, and they got pushed together, and I kept thinking Soweto, it must be a Zulu or Nkosa word, but like little things like this, that there's still room, being an international studies major who speaks 3 languages, that you can go and go, really? I may not know that, and like we found this amazing place, maybe the best fish and chips, or top 2 or 3 best fish and chips I've had in my life, in South Africa, by a bay that has the most great white sharks of anywhere in the world. And we're doing like me being talking meat puppet in front of camera, and there's 2 fishermen that pull up, and these South African fishermen, what do you filming for? And I was like, I tell them, and they're like, I said, do they have fresh fish at Kalki's? They're like, we hope so. We sell them their fish. And as if on cue, you see the woman come out of the kitchen to the fish auction at the end of the pier. She takes the fish that we literally had just seen thrown onto the pier and carries it into the kitchen. So, I mean, things you just simply can't get. We did barbacoa in Teotihuacan in Mexico, a place called La Gruta, in the shadow of the 3rd largest pyramid. And if they'd roasted a whole lamb, the thing you hear behind there, that's tomorrow night's dinner. Like, it's that fresh. It's crazy.
So you don't only get to explore all these incredible cities and continents, but you get to eat the best food in the world.
It's been amazing.
How many fish and chips have you eaten in your lifetime?
Probably a decent amount, because I go back and forth to England as much. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've had, we worked really diligently. It can't be this kind of masturbatory, check out how many stamps they got on my passport. Don't I have nice luggage and cargo pants or something? No one cares about that. No one cares about some shishi bougie traveling thing. It's got to be about when I'm sitting there on my couch in Brooklyn, when I'm sitting on my couch in Wisconsin, when I'm sitting watching this on my laptop, am I in Malaysia? And Malaysia is so much more than just pretty pictures that you can take. It is the taste of these fish grills that are called ikan bakar. and to really describe these flavors, to find places. We found a burger place in Malaysia, but they do bamboo charcoal, these black buns, and they have almost the consistency of red velvet cake, the buns themselves, and they're breathtaking. But it's just a burger, but it's elevated because a tomato in Italy is not a tomato in Florida. Is not, and believe it or not, the best tomatoes I've had in my life, I will say this full stop, were in Moscow. Azerbaijani tomatoes are the illest. Like, I've never had anything like that. And it's just, we worked to have the foods that are representative. We had Singapore chili crab. We had lechon in the Philippines. We had, obviously, different types of pho in Vietnam, in Hong Kong. Naturally, we're going to do different noodle dishes and different dumplings. And, you know, you think you've had a great pho because you went to the highly rated place on Yelp or Seamless or whatever else. And then you're like, hey, you know, Vietnam really does a good pho. Like, Saigon really nailed that whole Vietnamese food thing down. And it's surreal. And then, you know, I have been keeping my dietary regimen and my fitness regimen so strong. And then we got to Italy. And then it was just like, nah. And it was the funniest thing because it was Passover, and I was like, I'm going to use Passover as my excuse to say no noodles, no bread.
Yeah.
Can I say bullshit, man? And the thing is, it was like Passover, and during Passover, I had bread and pasta every day. I had probably some kind of a ham product every day, and I capped Passover off with a trip to the Vatican. I was like, happy Passover, there you go. Noodles, bread, cheese, pork, and the Vatican. There you go, as God intended.
Well, you mentioned your workout routine, your fitness regimen. When you're eating all of this like rich, delicious, fattening food, how do you kind of stay in shape? What is your workout like, and how is your stomach these days? Because I can only imagine.
All right, I'll work backwards. So thank God health-wise, that was the big thing. I never wanted to give sort of haters the satisfaction of, spontaneously combusting on camera and studying, oh my God, is he actually sweating gravy? Like, no. But the other thing that I realized, a couple things. So when I initially did my first sort of operation, deep lubrification, I worked with a doctor and a nutritionist, and I have one of those really cool trainers that doesn't shout at you, and he actually very encouraging, and it sounds silly, like almost nurturing, but makes you believe that you could do something instead of screaming at you, so you like do the rep just to get this asshole out of your face, But they always said to me that the gym could really only affect 20 to 23% of any kind of weight loss and metabolic shift, that almost all of it's diet. So I just was going to budget calorically, and I'm not joking about that, that if I knew, for example, I knew I was going to have a good dinner, a bigger dinner, then I knew I had to sort of budget calorically, and that also meant that maybe a bigger workout to create a greater burn, and little things. Believe it or not, Dwayne Wade, of all people, had posted something on Instagram, a Vine back in the day. He was dripping with sweat, and he was at the most cracked out looking court I've ever seen in my life. I mean, gully is all hell, just cracked concrete, no nets on the rim, and he was dripping with sweat, and he even said, he's like, no excuses, you don't need no gym, no excuses. And so I was really inspired by it. I mean, it's not the first time you heard it, but it's just the way certain things land on you. So I downloaded one of those 30-day squat challenges, and I got ass that won't quit right now, and won't quit hurting. And no, but I downloaded those, and I do stuff with my luggage, and I run. And not a lot. I have a dream to do a 5K. I'd love to do a 5K every week for 1 year. That's a dream of mine. So I'm just trying to get comfortable as a somewhat large mammal doing 3.2 miles with some degree of regularity. But that's all 5K is 3.2 miles. And you're like, that's it? But if you take a leisurely pace and I walk it, I'm not trying to be a speed demon, but I have a lot of young fans. I do. I have a lot of young fans, and I think it's cool that they see that I'm not choking on my breath and that my blood type isn't ragu and that, and not for nothing, Mom Richman is over unmarried, childless Adam. And I think that if I want people to ever swipe right on this face, then I better make sure I could still see my feet. So far so good. There's one.
Yeah, there they are. Well, I remember watching, as I'm sure we all do, Man vs. Food, and it would just be like, how does he eat that? Was there ever anything that was placed in front of you that you were like, oh, I can't do it. I just can't. I can't.
Challenge-wise?
Yeah.
I mean, like, all of them. That was the thing that, especially for, like, the quantity ones, you have to understand. So later on, the network worked with me on my schedule, but shows like that had never been filmed before. And those first 10 episodes, I was just telling my cousin, I was like, I am shocked I lived through those first 10 because there was no recovery time. And we would film a full day, and I'm eating, and then somehow I have to be ready to eat something, a hamburger the size of a bar stool, and I have to film for however many hours. And that was the thing, is I would have no food in my system, no anything for nearly 20 hours, have to work out, and then film 8 to 10 hours of content on an empty stomach with super high energy. And then so finally, like, I would dive into those challenges, and I always used to tell people, like, the first 20 minutes is really where make or break, right? So I would usually, like, destroy and dive in because it was like, oh, finally I'm eating. Finally I get to just sit on my ass and, like, just eat a bunch of stuff. But the thing is, you know, too much of anything is a rough thing. The thing is, I'm so competitive, and I hate losing. I'm not the worst person to play Monopoly with. I'm actually the person you kind of want on your team, but I'm very, very competitive, and I hated losing, and I hated disappointing the people that were chanting my name if I lost. So I would just sit there and dive in, and everyone used to say, you know, come on, man, be honest. So I'm glad I get to dispel this myth right here on the interwebs. Come on, man, you high as hell when you eat. That's the only way you could eat all that stuff. And I always tell them, look, I have freakishly large eyes. I know this. You would be able to tell. It's how my mom always caught me in high school, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, Mom. It's like, all right, something's up. That's not hay fever. Like, I can tell what's going on. So it was usually just me and my own competitive nature, and they would put something in front of you, and you think you can do it, and it's adrenaline, but you're going, this is ridiculously spicy. This is way too many chicken wings, whatever. But there is something, right? Like, I'm not a prize fighter. Despite my earnest intentions, I will never be in the starting 11 for my beloved Tottenham Hotspur or for the Miami Dolphins or pitch relief for the Yankees. But, you know, when you are the people's champ, you know, if I'll be the Paul Wall of food with better teeth, I suppose, and a little less scissor. Pow wow, baby. But you know, not for nothing, every business that's ever been on any of my shows has done an 80 to 300% increase in business. And to know that since 2008, maybe one of the worst times for an independent restaurant, to have had some part in helping those guys along, to have a family of 4, I just did a food festival, and them to say, you know, you make Pittsburgh a vacation spot for my family, or Portland. And as an American, I take tremendous pride in that. As someone who came from a single-parent family, where, you know, to quote Lin Miranda, you know, we ain't had that kind of money. So I think that to know that they're putting money in the pocket of other families, that people are realizing that Boise, Idaho has much culinary merit as, you know, Barcelona. And I got to tell you, the food on this, and I specifically, and I wanted to make sure I made this accessible. You know, it doesn't make a difference if I'm the TV meat puppet. If you guys aren't feeling it, if you guys don't feel a desire to get out your seat and have a bowl of pho, or find a place that serves porchetta or fresh mozzarella or cacio e pepe or dumplings or whatever, I'm not doing my job. But we added a segment online called Sample the Secrets, where it's a list of where you can sample the flavors from the episode a little closer to home.
I know, I always wanted to scratch and sniff TV, because when you're watching these food shows, you're like, I want to eat it, though. This isn't fair.
Yeah, and that's the thing and I'm so glad you said it. I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's one thing to show pictures of pretty food, but y'all got Instagram accounts. Like, just turn on your web and hashtag food porn, And then it's going to be something with like some cheese melted on it or whatever. But you know, the thing is, I don't just want to show you pretty food, though I do want to do that. I still want to give you guys London, like whatever I can in 22 and a half minutes, that it's more than dun, 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 and the Big Band Parliament and some tea and some crumpets and bad teeth and stuff like this. And then all of a sudden you go, no, there's like an amazing Middle Eastern community and a thriving Greek community and a thriving Russian community and a thriving West Indian and African community, and they all have made phenomenal. I mean, chicken tikka masala is a dish from the United Kingdom. It's not a traditional dish, and so flavors have been built there that I think people lose because they think everything is spotted dick and toad in a hole. And spotted dick, not a venereal disease. It's a dessert, by the way, just FYI.
But, you know, you are giving us these hidden gems, but how do you find them? How do you hear about them through word of mouth and you're like, oh, I got to visit this place? Or are there people on your crew that have kind of gone out of their way to find them and tell you about them?
It's an awesome question. Some I have heard about. Some, I mean, obviously the blogosphere and, you know, everyone writes about their meals and takes photo. I'm guilty as charged. You know, you take photo of, I remember ordering the same breakfast in Hawaii like a few days in a row just because I couldn't get a slow-mo of the egg yolk cracking just how I wanted it. I was like, I really suck. But it was like I wanted an Eggs Benedict, but I wanted to get that yolk in slow-mo. Anyhow, so I know people that are in the food purveyor space, whether it's farmers or vegetable growers or herb growers, so they could also refer me to places. But I work with a great team. I can't take credit. I've got some 2 or 3 really great associate producers, and my showrunner, Bonnie Biggs, is one of the most brilliant people I've met. I've worked with her since season 1 of Man vs. Food. And I was just telling someone today, it's like pirates like emptying out their sack of booty. But literally, we meet in one room with a ping pong table that's a conference table because it's modern and it's arty. But we sit there and we're like, well, what do you have? And it's literally people going, okay, it's a dish, but you have to sing for it. And it's located in a bar that's inside a mental asylum. You know what I mean? The next one's like, okay, it's a fish dish, but they only serve it on the vernal equinox. You know what I mean? And it's like, and we're trying to outdo each other, but then you realize what makes the best for location episode, what has the right combination of sheer food porn and foods that really indicate what the hell this place is. And then you got to call these places and say, are you cool with us filming in your kitchen and closing down your kitchen for 4 to 5 hours? Are you cool with us putting releases around and filming your customers? And especially because the nature of these places, are you cool with us giving away your secret dish or secret location? And sometimes they're cool, but then you go to interview people in these restaurants and they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you, but shit, everyone's going to know now. It's like, well, surely when they put out tables and chairs, like, they thought that, like, getting customers might have been part of the plan. It might have been part of their grand design. And it's awesome, dude. In Argentina, the Puerta Cerrada restaurant, you know, these closed-door restaurants started apropos of the economic crisis, and now one of the oldest is run by an American expat called Casa Salt Shaker, and it's you eat in this dude's home. And he makes things like lamb fat mashed potatoes. And, oh, man, the diggity, just out of control.
Before I pass this off to the audience, though, I'm very curious. You're a very well-dressed man. And
Thank you.
You know, you wear your jackets and your leather jackets and your pants. Aren't you, like, did you ever want to just, like, unbutton your pants when you're eating all this food? Don't you just want to wear sweatpants? Like,
Nobody got time for that.
I could never eat that much food, like, well-dressed, right, guys? I would just want to be in my pajamas.
Well, I have to say I am glad that Travel Channel and my co-collaborators have let me sort of retire the restaurant shirt and epaulette jacket. And I remember as I began to swell with both pride and potatoes, I remember that's when like terms from high school, like, damn, Adam be wearing a young jacket. That's a young ass jacket, Adam, because it was like start getting tighter on me or whatever. But I guess that's the thing too, right? That people have a better BS detector than I think a lot of TV hosts and a lot of TV shows give them credit for. And I couldn't afford cable till I got on cable. And the fact that anyone chooses to spend a half hour with my monkey ass every week instead of the other 900 stations, I owe them. There's like a debt of respect and a debt of authenticity. And so if I like to genuinely rock, like I'm a big sneaker dude, so if I want to genuinely rock my incredibly fresh Kid Robot Air Max 1, or whatever, or if I want to rock wingtips and stuff, I know it's unusual at points, but if people are enjoying me or the way I look, and that's why people would like wonder why they never showed me like barfing or like agonizing in the bathroom. It's like, because if that's what you're thinking about, then you're not thinking about how great the homemade, handmade ice cream at Crown Candy Kitchen is, and you're not thinking about how we see this guy in the London episode make the best gravlax I've had in my life, and I'm a Jew saying that. This guy made gravlax in 8 minutes in front of me using the most ghetto equipment in a closet for the Disappearing Dining Club in the London episode of Secret Eats. And if they're thinking about calories, if they're thinking about weight, if they're thinking about, oh my God, what a schlub, then they're not focused. But if they're going, the food looks good, he looks good, the place looks good, I'm fine. I'm chilling.
That's perfect.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Guys, I'm sure you have tons of questions, so let us know.
Hey, Adam.
What's up, dude?
Yeah, thanks for being here. Such a huge fan of your show, Man
Thank you,
vs.
man.
Food. So my question is for your new show.
Yep.
Has there been a particular dish that you always had thinking maybe this would be a perfect Man versus Food challenge?
It's tough. It's funny. The very last challenge I ever personally did on Man vs. Food was the one that I wanted to do the whole time, which was like just a schload of nachos. And I love nachos, so I was like, oh, dude, is that even considered a challenge? I mean, God, any number of the things that I had seen. God, you see so many like great noodle dishes, and you're thinking, this is so delicious, I would eat a wheelbarrow full of it. But we film in the Italy episode, the Rome episode of Secret Eats. We filmed at a place called I Cerrali, Forno a Legna, in a town called Frascati. And he makes porchetta, which is essentially deboned pork, stuffed with herbs, roasted for a day. They chill it, they slice it, they put it on a sandwich. And we were joking, we were like, I don't know if there's a porchetta challenge anywhere, but I'd be willing to take it. And you're having this with fresh mozzarella, and they put carafes of wine out, and we're like, okay, next season, 14 episodes, all Italy. That's all I want to do, pork and cheese and bread.
And wine.
And wine. Oh, dear God. They put out, for a crew lunch, they put out carafes of wine, balls of fresh mozzarella, and slices of this porchetta that we had seen come out of the oven, with bread that we had actually helped take out of the oven ourselves. And it's like, the itis? Have you heard of the itis? Y'all know the itis. The itis when you eat and then afterwards you just, oh shit, girl, I got the itis.
And you still have to work?
Thanksgiving in Hawaii, they call it the Kanak attack. And I found out the Italian word for it. It's called abbiocco, which means I ate so damn much I'm ready to pass out and fall asleep. That I was like carb coma. But I mean, everybody was just, you could literally see in the footage what we shot before lunch and what we shot afterwards. Because like before lunch was like, da 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 da, and everyone was like so excited. And everyone was like, so tell me, how often do you come here for charcuterie? That's cool. And then before it's like, I can't believe it. We're going to go see an authentic wood-burning oven here in the hills of Rome. So, is it like the best porchetta? That's cool, too. It's like Robitussin, but like with carbs. Pseudophenitussin. Beautiful skirt, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just wanted to know, I know when you're going on all these places, you must be drinking lots of great wines, beers, cocktails with all this incredible food.
Absolutely.
Which country has the best cocktails?
Ooh, great question. Cocktails. I mean, cocktails I think is like kind of place dependent. you know, it's hard to talk about, like, we filmed in Rome, and obviously the wine situation in Italy is fairly epic. Um, I had amazing vodkas in Poland. Um, I know you would think that I would say Moscow. Moscow, there was some, but Poland, there's a bison grass vodka. I think it's called Zubrovka. They sell it here, but it has a faint green tint. But it's excellent, and you don't need a bunch of mixers and craziness with it. Two of my favorite cocktail bars happen to be in London. Believe it or not, Hakkasan, they got one in Vegas, and da-da-da-da. The Hakkasan in London, Soho, has maybe one of my favorite cocktail programs, and there's a place called, Duck and Waffle in the Heron Tower in London. They have excellent cocktails. But that was the other thing, too, is that there's so many different spirits that are prevalent just based upon what people have. We were in Greenland, and there's a guy who makes schnapps, and one of the things that he flavors it with, he takes the stuff out of the gizzard of the ptarmigan bird, they blow it up like a balloon, and then they take the stuff in, and then they use that to flavor schnapps, and it's crazy. And in Iceland, they've got a liquor called Brennivin, which is also called Black Death, so maybe a little more aggressive in terms of that stuff. But that's, I think, been the big adventure. And I'm a sucker for Argentinian Malbec. So I have a tradition that I do whenever we have a new cast member. I take the whole crew out to eat, and I try to do something for the crew in every city. Something small, a meal, or something big, like I treated my crew to a midnight cruise in Greenland, and midnight is broad daylight. It's 24 hours of daylight right now. So I took everyone out to a meal in Argentina, and it was like beef-a-palooza. It was like beef and sausage and patatas fritas and just these garlic French fries with like fried eggs on it and steak and Malbec and chimichurri. It was like, that was a good one, but definitely, like, forget fiber. We all wanted to, like, swallow a rope and floss our bodies at the end of that one. TMI? Maybe just a little.
I think we have time for one more.
Hey, Adam.
What's
Thank
up,
you
dude?
for being here. Which countries would you like to visit next?
Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Philip?
How you doing, Philip? What countries do I want to visit next? Well, for the show, I want to go back. I filmed something for Travel Channel in Spain. We filmed in Barcelona and San Sebastian for a giveaway called The Trip. I don't know if you know this, San Sebastian in the Basque Country has more Michelin stars restaurants per capita than anywhere else in the world. But they also have a type of tapas tradition called pinchos, Pintxos. And they're all laid out on the bar. It's the most beautiful thing you've seen in your life. They have their own type of wine there called chocolat, which has its own natural effervescence, and it gets more effervescent the further away from the glass you pour it. So you see these old men, and there's images of Picasso like this, where they hold the glass by their hip and they pour it across their bodies like this big flourish, but it's got this beautiful salinity to it. So San Sebastian, I love Barcelona. Catalonian cuisine and the use of olives and octopus and olive oils and different pickled veg. Just really love that. And would love an opportunity to go to Peru and maybe make the distinction. I mean, I guess the thing is, because if people know me for American comfort food and I can maybe demystify comfort food from other cultures, then I think, having an American audience or even a British audience be a little bit more discerning and being able to tell the difference between Argentinian versus Peruvian versus Chilean cuisine. I'd love to do more stuff in Africa, potentially the Middle East. And, to have not done France, and I think especially, on a personal level, I want to do Greece because obviously I know the economic downturn they've had. And if, again, I can show them in a positive light and talk about the affordability of travel there and show some awesome food. If it increases tourism, I'd love to do that and to help enlighten things in the Aegean, but also the Middle East. And I think if there's a way to maybe make places that people associate with strife or ugliness or limits or restriction and sort of celebrate the beauty of it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We were all scared shitless about Moscow. We were warned. We were warned by staff at our hotels to be careful of what we said and where we said it, and in no uncertain terms, because they said Vladimir Putin often is in that hotel, takes meetings in that hotel. We were next to the Kremlin. We were told don't use ATMs out on the street because very often there are spotters that will do it that to get RFID blocking wallets, and you're like, oh my God, where the hell am I? And then all of a sudden, and you factor that in, of course, but then you lay back in the cut and you go, okay, I'm going to know these rules, but I'm still going to live life. And I went to I like the arts, but I wouldn't necessarily have called myself a ballet fan. And then I went to the Bolshoi and like blew me away. And I made a point of going to, like, this hairy-chested mouth breather is like going to the ballet, but I went to like all like the big arts complexes in each city, and it was the smartest decision. Palacio de Bellas Artes in Mexico City, Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires. Rufus Wainwright did an opera, but he did a selection of Rufus Wainwright's greatest. So yes, there was cigarettes and chocolate milk sung at the very end. But to see these ballets and to see these grand houses and to see what art moves the people in these cities, I can't recommend doing that enough. Because if you follow your bliss, no matter where you are, people don't know this. Last factoid, because I know we got to wrap up. When I filmed Man vs. Food, every city I went to, all 59 episodes, I always did 5 things. I went to a local bookshop, a local comic book shop, a local like vinyl like record store. I would go to a local men's store and a local coffee roaster. And the thing was, it wasn't like I had analytically broken down that therefore I would see a cross-section. These are the passions that move me. And even if I don't buy coffee or if I don't see anything at the men's store that I dig, I might meet someone who can turn me on to something. And as a result, I saw kick-ass rock shows in Salt Lake City. I got free boat rides in Milwaukee with a friend of somebody there. I have single batch coffee from a place in New Orleans from this guy who just started roasting his own. From someone I met at a comic book shop. I met one of the comic book writers. I'm a big comic dork as well. I met a writer that I dug, and turned out that he knew a beer brewer, and the guy gave me some of his like brew that he had started. It's just following your bliss. You know, it's like you do you no matter where you are. And I think that eventually, if you're honest and you approach people with love and respect and a little bit of street savviness, then you're going to be okay. You'll be all right. And eat fried chicken in Thailand. The place is called Soy Polo. I'm not kidding you. Eat fried chicken in Thailand. Dear God, eat it twice. 3 times if you can.
You fly me out there, I'll definitely eat it.
Done. Table for 2, fried
Yes.
chicken.
I got a
Like
tour
I don't see
guide.
this ginormous like iceberg on her hand.
I'm gonna. Honey, I'm going to Thailand with Adam.
Sitting there like, oh yeah, I'll go.
I'll still go.
Meanwhile, like Leo and Kate are running away from your ring going, oh, I'll never give up, Jack.
Well, I'm following my bliss, and I'm
Okay,
going
you don't have to give up. Just move over. Let's both float on the door for a little bit. Let's take a turn or two, you selfish.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys when I'm up here on the show for our Thailand episode.